Alrighty, hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So today guys, I'm gonna talk about a pretty interesting and important topic that is training and strengthening the hip rotator muscles. Now hips as a joint, the hip is very similar to the shoulder because it has the three planes of motion. It has flexion and extension, so as the shoulder, flexion and extension. Then it has abduction and adduction, and then it has internal rotation and external rotation, right? So the hips also has these three movements. Now the hip is not as free as the shoulder because the joint itself is a little bit more closed, so certain range of motions are going to be a little smaller, but nonetheless it has these three planes. Now what happens is that most people, they train the hip a lot in flexion and extension. Imagine just squats, when you do squat you go into hip flexion. So look at me here, you go from a neutral position, flex here, see that the hip is flexed, and then you go into like neutral. Maybe you can go into a little extension as well if you contract your glutes. So that's an exercise that a lot of people do. Then a lot of you also do abduction and adduction. For example, this very easy exercise, the laying down and pulling the leg up. You need to do it correctly if you want to really target the muscles that you want to strengthen. Or for example, another very easy variation that is the sweeping squat. So when you want to train your adductors, you do like this, and then from here you try to really squeeze the other leg and bring it closer to your body, all right? So squeezing it using your adductors. But have you ever seen someone training specifically the hip rotator muscles? No, probably the answer is no. And why is that? Because these muscles are so overlooked, and many times they are not even considered because everyone thinks that as you do your adductions and abduction exercises, you're also training these rotator muscles, but that's not it. Exactly as you need to train the rotator cuff muscles for your shoulders to keep them healthy, in the same way, if you want to have healthy hips, you want to also train targetedly and target these small muscles. So the internal rotator muscles that are going to be primarily the small glute and the tensor of the fascia lata, and you want to also train the external rotator muscles that are a lot more. So you have the great glute, you have also the medial glute, then you have all the small muscles, for example the piriformis, obturator, and a bunch of others. Or I'm not gonna say you all of the muscles, but they're very small, right? And especially I think internal rotation is what people don't train ever. And I'm going to show you right now a set of exercises that you can do with just an elastic band and a chair, and you can do it at home. And if you don't have access to an elastic band, I'm going to show you some variations that you can do even without anything, without any equipment, and you can start training these muscles. So remember, it's important to train every muscle, because what happens if you don't train certain muscles, you're gonna become weak in that plane, all right? And becoming weak in a certain plane for a joint that moves in all the planes makes it unstable, and therefore you may have long-term problems on your hips if you don't start changing how you train now. As it happens for the shoulders, it's just the same. And actually hips are even more important, because hips are going to actually load our body, our weight. So they take the load, they take the weight. So shoulders are pretty free, they don't need to weight anything, but hips do. So if you have bad hips mechanics, in the long term you may have some problems on your low back, on your knees, on your legs in general, on your hips. So you want to fix this as early as possible. So now for those of you who have or don't have an elastic band, the exercise is going to be the same, all right? So I'm going to show you the elastic band afterwards. You want to have a chair, all right, that allows you to to place your feet on the ground, so you need to touch the ground like this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna stable yourself, and the leg that you're gonna work, you need to lift it up a little bit, right? So you need to activate the flexors of the hip. So you wanna lift it up a little bit, right? So that you can move it here. See that I can move it without contact with the ground. Now, the rule is simple. When your foot goes upwards, you're training the internal rotators. When your foot goes inwards, you're training the external rotators of the hips, all right? Because here, internal and external is not referring to where the foot goes. It's just referring to the motion that the femur does. So it's talking about the hip, right? So when the femur, if you try to imagine the femur like this, all right? If the femur rotates externally, you can see that the tibia that is attached right here is going to rotate in this direction. So the foot is going to go inward like this. Instead, when the femur rotates internally, the tibia goes out, and therefore the foot also follows. Right? So this is the difference between external rotation and internal rotation. So what you're going to do is you want to really stabilize yourself with the other foot, with your hands as well on the chair. Lift up your leg a little bit, and then for internal rotation, you want to bring your foot, so having everything fixed. You don't want to move your leg. So this, see here that my upper leg is moving, this is bad. So you want to keep your leg as fixed as possible. You just want to move your tibia, right? So you just want to try to rotate this leg as much as possible inside and then outside. Now inside, you have a little bit less of range of motion anatomically, because there is the bones are going to just come together, so you can't really go as far as possible. So it's like 45 degrees of internal rotation. And external rotation as well, it's about a little bit more. It's like 50 to 60 degrees of range of motion. So see here, internal rotation and external rotation, right? This is just the pure movement. You can do also abduction with external rotation, and you can see that it seems that the motion is larger, but here you're incorporating two motions, right? So here you're just trying to target just the rotation, right? So internal rotation, external rotation, like this. And you can do it against just gravity, because here, if you just try to do it right now, you're gonna see that even trying to, pull your tibia as high as possible without moving the upper leg is gonna actually already activate your muscles. You should really feel them right here, because the small glute and the tensor of the fascia lata are right on the lateral part of your hips. So you should feel them activated, right? And at the same time, when you do the external rotation, these muscles are a little bit deeper, so it's harder to really feel them contract. But anyway, if you try to really do it without using any other motions, you should feel also the muscles here working a little bit, all right? So it's a lot easier for you to go into external rotation than internal rotation, because as I said before, when we do squats, when we do a lot of different motions, we are already in an externally rotated position. So it's easier because there is more room inside the joint, so it's easier to go into flexion. If you try to go into flexion like this, it's very hard to do. If instead you just abduct and externally rotate, it's a lot easier because there is just more mechanically, there is more room, all right? So that's it. And you do the same for the other leg, right? So foot inwards, that's external rotation. Foot upwards, that's internal rotation. And you can do this. So if you don't have any elastic bands, if you don't have any equipment, you can just do this. And especially you can train internal rotation a lot just by holding, You can even do both legs at the same time if you want to. You can just, go out as much as possible and then come back to neutral. Go out, hold, and then come back, right? You can even do both legs at the same time. Or you can also do it on the floor. Now on the floor, it becomes a little bit more challenging because on the floor when you're gonna do external rotation, you're gonna be already in an externally rotated position. So the range of motion is not gonna be much, and the same goes for internal rotation. But I'm gonna show you anyway. So see here, I'm gonna just place in this position that's pretty much like a stretching position, all right? And the leg that's gonna work is actually the leg on your side. So this one right here, right? I hope that you guys can see. So when you have your leg like this, all right? If you try to lift up your foot, so I hope that you can see here my foot, all right? If I try to lift it up without compensating, so without moving my knee, my leg, or whatever, you can see that my foot comes up, see? It's not touching anymore the ground. So this is an internal rotation, all right? See? And now this is a lot harder to do, because even if it's just the weight of your leg, you should really feel your muscles contracting so hardly just to do this small movement. It's very small. Like I can feel my muscles already burning and almost like not being able to do the motion anymore because it's just so difficult. And now the same, when you're here and you're going to instead train your external rotator muscles, you're gonna lift up your knee, right? So like this. So keeping your foot on the ground, try not to compensate, so don't move the trunk, you know, try to be in a fixed position, and then from here, you're gonna just externally rotate, all right? So this is, you can also do this on the ground. It's a lot harder than what I showed you in the chair, but you can also do this one. So, you know, once you get a lot stronger on the chair, you can move down on the ground and you can do this. And it's very, very challenging, especially internal rotation. Like it's insane how hard how weak these muscles are in like, I imagine if they're weak for me, I imagine that like for a lot of players, or actually a lot of athletes like me, are gonna have the same issue. And then you can just change legs, you know? So from here, you wanna, again, internally rotate, all right? And then you wanna externally rotate. And yeah, so you can keep it, you can do it for time, you can do reps. For example, 15 to 20 reps, normally it's enough. You can do it 3 times, or you can add a second hold. For example, you can just internally rotate, hold 1 second, and then down. So internal rotator, 1 second, and then down, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. Instead, if you do have an elastic band, I recommend you to do this one seated, because as I said before, you can be a lot more stable and you can feel your muscles working a lot more. So have an elastic band here, you know, wrapped on anything that is quite heavy, so it's not gonna move. And you're gonna just place your elastic band like this, and you're gonna place it beneath the lateral malleolus of the fibula. I don't know how it's called in English. Anyway, you don't want to place it on your foot. So this, right? So look at me at the side. This is a bad position for your elastic band. You're gonna place it not on your foot, but a little above it. So on your ankle joint. So that's the perfect spot, right? Because you don't want to move, because a lot of people, they think that they're doing internal external rotation, but they're just moving the foot, right? So they're just moving a little bit here, and then they're moving the foot, and they think that they're doing a lot, but they're actually not. So just remember to put it above your foot, so even if you move your foot, the elastic band is gonna stay the same. And then from here, in this case, because the elastic band is on my right side, all right? So I'm using the leg that is not the one closest, so see that this leg is free. I'm using the opposite leg. So if I try to pull the elastic band against it, I'm gonna go into internal rotation, because here see that my foot is going from inwards, upwards, so this is internal rotation. And once again here, you can do 15 to 20 reps, 3 times. You can go for the maximum range of motion, you can go from an external rotated position like this, into neutral, and into as much of internal rotation as you have. Remember, everything must be fixed in the place. You don't want to move your leg like this, you don't want to do this. So you want to just targetedly and just move those small muscles, right? So like this. And once again, you can add a hold. So from here, you move, you hold 1 2 seconds, and then you come back. And remember also, it's also important the eccentric portion. So don't let go. Always try to control the way back and the way up. So in that way, you train the muscle constantly, right? And then if you want to train the same leg, but in this case the external rotator, what you have to do is you have to change side, right? So I'm going to show you right now with the other leg, but this is the same. So you're going to place your chair or the thing where you have the elastic band on the other side, right? So that's pretty much it. So to train the external rotation, you just need to place, in this case, the elastic band in your leg that is closer to where the elastic band is, like this, see? And then from here, once again, everything must be fixed, and you're gonna just pull your tibia inside. So once again, you don't wanna move your leg, you don't wanna do this, right? Doing this is useless. You just wanna keep everything fixed, and you're gonna just move the tibia. Imagine you're trying just to rotate this leg to try to see what's beneath your leg. That's your goal, right? And this is external rotation against resistance, once again. So you can do 15 to 20 reps, 3 times, multiple times a day. You can add a hold, isometric hold at the end. And remember to start, the best is to start from an internal rotated position. See here, it's internal rotated into external rotated, right? So this is the best. So the range of motion is fuller, right? So you train the muscle in a larger range of motion. And yeah, remember, quality is better than quantity. So remember to do the reps correctly. Really try to feel your muscles, working, right? Yes, I feel them working, so I'm doing it properly. And yeah, so that's it. So this is what I have to say about, rotation on the hips. Remember, it's important to keep your hips healthy. So it's not just, doing abduction exercises or adduction exercises or training the glutes. You also need to train these small muscles, these small rotators, but that they're gonna help you to have healthier hips. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and see ya. Bye bye.